What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Roblox Duels video. And today we're gonna talk about something a bit different. Today we're gonna talk about trading. Trading is a big aspect of this game ever since it released. And when I say big, I mean economy wise. Ever since trading was released, the whole economy blossomed from it, and now it is pretty much present in the form of the plaza, or as you call the trading hub. What we're gonna talk about today is exactly how trading works, how you can make your first trades, what's important to consider when you make trades, and also what you can do to become a proficient trader, how you can make value in this game. First and foremost, we're going to divide the video in some categories. So first of all, we're going to talk about demand, then we're going to talk about rarity, after we're going to talk about value, and then we're going to talk about odds, and for the final, we're going to talk about how all this bundles up together to make the economy. We're also going to talk about how we can make trades, good trades, what's examples of bad trades, good trades, and all these varying factors coming up together to make a trade. When you look at an item's value, it is maybe, if not the most important aspect of determination for an item value. So how does demand work? Well, it's pretty simple. It is self-explanatory. When an item has a lot of demand, when a lot of people want an item, the demand is gonna increase. This is applied for every item in the game, whether it be a secret, whether it be a mythic or an exclusive, even commons, they all have different aspects of demand. If you look on the value list, you're gonna see there's a couple of items that have maybe 6 or 7 or 8, 9, 10 demand, and it is not tied to the rarity of the item. What I mean by this is that a common item can be 10 demand, but also only be worth 20 value. Much like a secret can be 10 demand and worth 100,000 value, it is not tied and directly linked to the rarity of an item. What does this mean? It means that in this category, in the category the item is placed in, whether it be, once again, a common, a mythic, an exclusive, it is gonna be scaled from 1 to 10 in that category. So a common is gonna have 10 demand compared to other commons and other items. What this means is that if you go into a trading server and you have this specific item, you have more chance of getting a trade for this item than, let's say, an item that has 3-star demand. Much more people are gonna want this item because the demand for it is increased. Obviously, the value list is a baseline, it is an estimate, so it is not 110% correct. It is a bit fallible sometimes. When you see an item with a lot of demand in Plaza, usually on the value list is put at a very high dot of demand. Items are ranked from 1 to 6 star depending on the rarity, and the rarity aspect affects the entire list, meaning they're not reserved to their categories. Let's say a secret has 6-star rarity, there could also be a common with 6-star rarity, and they're both going to be considered the same rarity. It is not the same as demand, which is only affecting its own category. Rarity, how does it work? Well, there's different thresholds for rarity, and the max rarity is any item under 200 exist. For items over 200 exist and below 400, they're gonna be in the 5-star category. Any items over that, so between 400 to, let's say, 2,500, 3,000, are gonna be in the 4-star category. And then there's all the rest that goes below that. Rarity is a niche factor. What this means is that items can be considered rare but have less demand than an item that is considered less rare but has more demand. Demand is, once again, probably the most prominent factor when it comes to trading, and rarity is more so just an indicator of the exist and the circulation of an item. Absolute factor, the value in itself. We've talked about demand and rarity and how they can be determined, and now we're going to talk about value and how it is affected by demand and rarity. Let's talk about, for example, the Star Wand. When the trading update got released, Star Wand was at the peak of the list. It was sitting at around 100,000 value at some point, and it was getting absurd OPs, full rainbow bundles when they were cheaper, water guns, fight sabers, etc, etc. Back then, the Star Wand was still almost under 100 exist, which means it was one of the rarest items in the game, sitting right next to Lana, even being rarer than Water Gun and Fight Saber in themselves. What happened was, Star 1 got a lot of exist, and thus the rarity dropped. And because the rarity dropped, more and more people were able to get their hands on a Star Wand, thus dropping the demand because it became much more common and more available to the public. This is just an example, but this is to explain how those two factors, demand and rarity, can massively affect the value of an item. Now, the value in itself, the number, how is it determined? Simply put, the value list metric is in coins. So it is based off of coins and how easy or difficult it can be to grind. This is another aspect of the list. When coins go up, the entirety of the list value-wise goes down. Because coins are harder and more demanded, people are going to trade their items for less. When coins go down, then the prices of the list go up because people are going to ask for more coins for their items. Let's take the Vault update for example. When the Vault got released, items such as Volcano or Moonstones were traded for as low as 1,000 to 2,000 coins. When the Badges update came in, a huge influx of coins came into the game, and so people were able to trade their items back for normal prices. This is what's called an economic shift. What happens is when there's an update that determines the value of the coin, then the value of the entire list is also determined. But to go back to the number, how is value? What is it? How is it determined? If you look at, let's say, Volcano, it says it is 10,000 coins on the list. 10,000 coins seems like a lot, but let's take the average player for example. Me, for instance, I play for about 1 to 2 hours a day. I just collect dailies, do trades and everything. And in about, let's say a week, I haven't played much, I haven't traded much, I'm already at 24,000 coins. I speak for myself. I'm not saying that I'm the average or the metric to follow. Sometimes I get lucky in trades, sometimes I play more or play less. The entire list is based on an objective median of players. I took the data of low-end players and high-end players, what they were getting in amount of coins per week, and simply made an average for it. And the average was around 5,000 to 6,000. And so coming up from that number, it was determined that about a month of grinding for a secret or low-end secret is about okay for the list, and that is pretty much it. The economy is obviously determined by these factors, and the list is simply a reflection of those factors as an estimate. And now, what are ORs? Well, simply put, ORs are stacks of a singular and specific item that someone has. For example, if someone has, let's say, 900 or 2,000, 3,000 tiki knives, this is an ord. Even if it is a common knife, it is still counted as an ord. And there's this common misconception that says you need to own a significant percentage of an item for it to be considered ord. It is not the case. All you need is to have a significant stack, enough so that compared to other stacks, it is a margin better and more than the other stacks. So for example, we're gonna have a special invitee today that is gonna talk about his own ord and also how he managed to get it. So we're here with Biggie, and now this guy right here is the Star Wand order himself. How did this all begin, man? I mean, it's a pretty crazy ord you have.
Yeah, it originally started, like, I saw a Star Wand. It was, like, at the top of the list of, like, stuff that I could afford, because, honestly, Lana is, like, too hard to collect. So I saw Star Wand as, like, an opportunity to get a ton. I started off just, like, getting a few, and it got to the point where I had so many, I'm like, I should go for 10. I got 10 and I just kept on going.
And the craziest part is you started ordering it when it was at a kind of a peak in terms of value and demand, you know? It was kind of like at what, 100,000 when you started ordering? Right? Or less?
105,000.
105,000, yeah. And you gave some OP for it too, I'm pretty sure.
Worst trade I've done for one is 2 Fight Sabers.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy looking at it right now when Fight is at like 70,000 rising. And is there kind of an end goal for this? I mean, you're at 13 right now. It's a pretty big amount. That's like, what, 700,000 in just Star ones? This is insane.
I think I'm planning on ending it now. I already traded one of them because I was going to keep going, but because of the way Starlon's been looking, it doesn't look very great on how it's going to end, especially since Sayer said he's planning on keeping it in the game. So just more and more are going to come into existence, making it less rare.
But do you think this is kind of an opportunity to hoard them more because they're dropping in value? You could get them for cheaper.
The problem is, people that have them, that I find, like, ask for a ton. Like, I could never find the kids looking for low stuff.
I mean, I'm looking at your trade history right now. You gave a Star one for 2 rainbow items. You could realistically just get more rainbow items, and in the future, I mean, hypothetically, you could give those rainbow items 1-to-1 later on. So you're kind of like making profit now and... Oh, okay, that's your plan already. Pretty much, yeah. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. If you have any kind of like trading advice or journey on if people want to start their own ords or just, you know, begin trading, because realistically with the ord you have right now, you're probably top 5 richest at the very least in the entire game. You have a ton of value right now.
The way to start trading, originally when I started trading, I didn't have anything. I started off with 2 sabers, which I like didn't want to let go. So I got a ton of the fish that you get from the codes, and I traded them for like moonstones and stuff. I just kept trading up until I got to the point where I don't even need to do that anymore.
Oh, that was in the very early days, right? When trading got released. Yeah, fish was kind of at the peak. You could get tons of mythics for a fish. It was pretty crazy. In total, if I look at your inventory right now, you got 13 wands, 2 rainbow knives, which is pretty cool. Those are rising. Some evil items, a 5 saber, that's really cool too. You have $1 million value, I think. About $1 million, or almost there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think just the star wands is $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, yes. How much is it at right now? It's at what, 85? No, 85.
Yeah, the star wands alone is 1,137,000.
Yeah, this is crazy. You gotta be proud of your inventory, because if we take my inventory, for example, I've, you know, bought a lot of items. So if I were to take out this criteria, you know, bought items would probably be at the exact same value-wise, maybe be under even. It's a pleasure to have you, man. You know, you're a really good trader. You have an amazing inventory, and you know, just your journey from 0 to 100 and like all these star wands is really crazy. So yeah, it was a pleasure to have you, man. Now, how do you become a good trader? How do you become rich in the game? Well, simply put, you follow those criterias. You go for items that have more demand and try to get overpay for those items. What is overpay? Overpay is a term that basically states when an item gets more than its base value listed on the list. Thus, when you say an underpay is when an item gets offered less than what is on the list. Sometimes people are going to offer more or less for items, and those are the terms we use to describe those situations. You're going to try and want to get, obviously, items that have insane amounts of demand and use those to get then items who have a good amount of value. Once you get that amount of value, you're then able to downgrade those items into smaller items with more demand, and thus you repeat this process. This is an ideal and classical scenario. Obviously, it is not an absolute guide to follow, but let's give some examples to be sure. If you have a moonstone and a moonstone death effect, together they're worth about 9,000. And what you're going to try to do with those items, because they have poor demand, is try to upgrade them to an item which has ideally more demand, maybe more value if you're lucky to get an overpay for your items. So let's say you're trying to trade for a volcano. This is an overpay in demand and also in value. Once you have that volcano, you then try and trade to either downgrade them for better items value-wise or demand-wise, or you keep it, grind, and then try to upgrade for a better item like an evil gun or an evil op or etc, etc. The goal is to pretty much farm value through trades by going for items with lower demand, more value, or more value, lower demand, whichever the case. As I trade a lot, you can see if you go to my profile in my trade history that there's a lot of trades that I'm gonna show and explain to you why they're good. This is a Poseidon gun for an evil gun. And now why is this good? Well, simply put, the evil gun has more demand and more value than the Poseidon gun. If you go into Plaza, you're gonna see that a lot of people try to trade their Poseidon items for evil items. And when you find those people, sometimes you're able to get overpays of maybe 2 Poseidon items, even maybe 3 for this singular evil gun. So what I did here was give a singular Poseidon gun for a singular evil gun. With luck, I might be able to get more Poseidon items with this evil gun. So I'm kind of, in parentheses, duplicating my items. If you look at this trade here, this might sound stupid on paper value-wise, but bear with me. I am giving a pixel for a rainbow knife and rainbow tag. Why does this sound iffy as a trade value-wise? Is because they're about equal, but the pixel has way less exists, so technically and on paper it is a rarer item. But as of currently, it is obtainable and dropping. And dropping is a huge factor when it comes to trading because it indicates that an item is going to lose value as time goes. So what I did was trade a dropping item and did a downgrade for 2 rising items, the rainbow knife and the rainbow tag, which both have more demand than the pixel, are rising way more than the pixel, and eventually will be worth more individually than the pixel. That being said, it is a gamble because the pixel is limited and could go out of the game anytime. I am not aware as to when, but it could. So it is a gamble. Trading has a lot of gamble aspects to it, but if you master them, you can do pretty good trades. Once again, a Poseidon item for an evil item. Arguably bad because it is a sniper for a gun, but the evil gun is one of the most wanted items of the pack right after the evil sniper. If you look at this one here, this one was from a few days ago, but I overpaid a bit for rainbow items. I took a risk back then when Star 1 was worth more and paired with the evil sniper than the rainbow mini set, which is basically the knife and the gun. The gamble paid off because now the Star 1 dropped and the rainbow items are still rising. It was a risk I took, gambling on the fact that those items would rise and that Star 1 eventually would drop. Not a really good trader. I make mistakes sometimes, but I hope this guide was useful into explaining what trading is, how it works, its different factors, and pretty much what the economy is as a whole. Obviously, I'm going to be linking down the value list in the description, and I hope this was useful to you. If you have some trading tips or recommendations you want to give in the comments, be free to send them. You know, it could help people into beginning their trading journey, and I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to support the channel by subscribing, liking, it is always appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.